Hey, what's up guys, it's JVilla777 here. So this will be my third video for my challenge, which is from going $0 to $100 playing 6 max Zoom 1 cent 2 cent. And just a quick update on the progress. So we've played 2 sessions and this is what our graph is looking like. Okay. So for now, like what I said in my previous video, we won't be using a HUD just because I don't think it's necessary to use a HUD at these micro stakes. All we need to do is take notes on most of the players that we play with, and also just play our strong hand super strong and our weak hands fairly weak. Okay, so we'll just open up 4 tables. Okay. So like I said in my previous videos, be opening in the small blind fairly wide versus the big blind if it's unopened, and I'd be raising it at least 3.5x just because I don't want the big blind calling with the correct pot odds. So now we flop our top pair top kicker. However, it's a fairly drawy board. If he calls here, I would assume he'd be calling fairly wide. He'd be calling with all flush draws, with any 2 overs, at least a 5, at least second pair. But he ended up folding. And I'm also going to be opening up 3.5x under the gun as well as mid position. Okay, so Melazor, he's playing 4 tables. We can definitely bet, but in a spot like this, I prefer checking back, just because I feel like I'm not value betting. We can definitely get a call from at least like, say King Jack with the King of Diamonds. But now when he checks twice, when he checks the turn, I'm definitely gonna bet this. Roughly about a little bit over half pot. Table 1, I'm just gonna check fold here. On a board like King and then 8-7 with a flush draw, I can't really see myself value betting anything here. So we're just definitely going to check fold. I decided to open a Queen 10 suited under the gun. I was hoping I could play with Yukon. Just because he's a little bit short, and I think Queen 10 plays fairly well versus short stackers anyways. However, Fox River decided to call on the button. I'm just gonna see that this on a board like this, I can definitely rep a king, a lot of flush draws. Once he calls though, we're just gonna shut down. He can call here with at least pocket 9s, pocket 8s. And I don't think he's gonna fold to a second barrel once another king comes. So we're just gonna give up. Now Leo Fatty, he's playing one table. He's got less than 50 big blinds, and he decides to 3-bet me. And it looks like he just wants to get it in. I think he'll be shoving here with at least ace jack plus. I think we can just shove. Okay. Just gonna make a note on this player. So short stacker, 3-bet queen jack off, call all in versus 4-bet shove. Six-two suited versus a short stacker, and he's just been raising. I can't see myself holding this, so definitely just gonna defend. I think that would be an okay defend. I'm gonna decide to lead out and then check turn and then check river. But he ended up folding. I was going to check turn even if I miss and hopefully get to see a free river card. So Mitrioya, he's raising under the gun. He's playing one table, and even though his stack is just a little bit less than 100 big blinds, I think it's an okay call with deuces. And he's basically betting under half pot. So we're just gonna raise this up. Hopefully we get the money in on this flop. Versus at least pocket 7s, pocket 8s, at least a flush draw. So just take note as well. Raise jack jack under the gun. C-bet under half pot on 5x, sorry. I think ace 10, I'm definitely just gonna call here. Anyways, back to my note. So C-bet half pot on 5xx flop and then get it in versus race. Okay. I don't think I'll fold ace 10 here. So we need to call about 14 cents. 14 into 34. And I feel like this is just a squeeze anyways. So I feel like this is a fairly wide squeeze. So we're definitely defending. And table 1, Boltries decides to min 3-bet me. Definitely gonna defend with king 9. Table 3, I'm just gonna fold it. We didn't hit anything. There's no backdoors or anything for us. We only have 2 overs. And table 1, also folding when he pots that. Okay, I'm gonna basically 3-bet tenor here. He's just multi-tabling, and in my opinion, he's also gonna be opening fairly wide under the gun. And I just want to ISO him as well. I feel like he's a fairly competent player if he's playing this much tables, so he's pretty aware on his position as well as my position. So I think 3-betting there is much better than just flatting. Okay, I'm gonna 3-bet pocket 3s versus GR. Okay, so drop decides to 3-bet me on the button. It's a pretty light 3-bet. I'm gonna get this in pre-flop versus his button 3-betting range. And when he shoves, definitely not folding. Okay. So also, I might just stick with 3 tables now, because I feel like I always run out of time when I try and take notes off on a player. So, and then we'll see if I do improve in regards to just multi-tabling Zoom or 4-tabling Zoom while commentating as well as writing notes, then I will add another table. But for now, I guess we can just stick with 3 tables. So I'm just going to take notes on drop. So 3-bet light jacks on the button versus cutoff, and 5-bet shoves versus 4-bet. Okay, I'm gonna refresh this table just because I ran out of time. I just want to take these pocket 3s to showdown. There's really no need to bet. With offsuit connectors versus like a min race, I usually wouldn't fold. I prefer just calling. And table 3 as well, I ended up calling versus a min race once the small blind calls. Now I'm gonna lead out on table 1. Just because when he checks back an ace, I don't ever see him having an ace. You might hero call here with at least pocket 10s, even pocket 7s. I'm just gonna give up. I don't think he'll fold even when the ace comes on the river. Okay. Can we value bet this? I feel like he has pocket 9s. but he could also have pocket sixes and pocket fives. So I'm pretty sure we can bet this fairly thin. It will be like a small annoying bet. I'm just gonna also take note of win part. So 2x BU check back missed. Sorry, 2x BU check back missed flop. I think I'm gonna check back on table 3. Table 2, I'm gonna see bet fairly big here. I do have top pair, top kicker. However, the board just seems pretty drawy. Table 1, so I get 3 bets. The 3 bet is pretty big. Definitely just folding. Okay, check back. Table 3. Feel like I could have bet there, just made a small bet. Table 2, I'm also gonna check back. I feel like he could have called with a lot of flush draws and maybe even a jack 10. Can't really see him not value betting this board. He'll definitely value bet all flushes, all straights. I think he's gonna check here with king jack, queen jack. I feel like this is a fold. So 16 into 42. I have to fold. I'll just muck it. I feel like I was beat there. So he took the line of check call flop, and then check check turn, and then lead river. Yeah, I can't really see him having many bluffs when he takes that line. So I think just mucking ace jack there is much better than actually just hero calling. Now I opened ace jack suited on table 2, mid position, and I get called by Yukon Ronald. Table 3, Box Eucas. I play with Box Eucas a lot. I've played with him up to, if I can remember correctly, up to 10 NL. And so he's pretty much aware on what he's doing and his position and whatnot. And he'll be opening up fairly wide in the cutoff as well as on the button. And he basically just folds a lot to 3 bets. Okay, so table 2, I decided to bet top pair, and we basically turn a flush draw, turn the nut flush draw. We're definitely gonna bet that as well. I feel like he could call here with a lot of pocket 7s and a weaker ace, as well as some 6-7, 6-8 top of hands. Now ace 2 suited versus the button. Usually this is a default 3 bet for me as well. Just having no info on the button as well is it makes it a lot harder. So I'm kind of like semi-guessing. I'm not saying that ace 2 suited is gonna be the correct play. It's just a default 3 bet in my range. Like I said, it's a lot harder to play when you don't have any info on the player, on the opponent. Okay, so Jackie decides to lead on the ace jack 2 flop. I think I'm going to just pocket eights. Table 2, we open up with queens, and we basically flop the best full house, and this guy decides to lead, another guy decides to call, so definitely just gonna flat. Hopefully the other player calls as well. Table 3, I opened up king queen off in the cutoff, and the guy decides to call on the button, so I'm gonna bet this just half pot, because I don't think he can call with much on that flop. I mean, he can, but if he's defending a lot as well on this board, so he'll be defending a lot of 8-7, 6-7, 4-5, and at least jack 9 in that spot. Okay, I'm just gonna shove here. I feel like this guy has a jack as well. Flop speller. Whoops, I timed out again. Okay, so let's just have a look at this hand. So I opened up queens, cutoff, button decides to call, and Kentia, I'll just label him as a fish. He basically calls from the small blind as well with 6-7 suited, and leads with a flush draw. I'll just make a note of that. Leads FD multi-way. I feel like flop speller has some sort of a jack type of hand, and he's pretty, he can probably read the board fairly well as well, if he's able to just call and then fold versus a river raise. Because on the turn, he's still called. So I really do feel like he has a jack in this spot. Like at least a jack 10, like jack 9 or something. Because when he calls the flop and then calls a massive bet on the turn versus 2 players, I think that's the only hand he can call with. And then on the river, he still calls a bet. I think he's just wanting to go to showdown with his jack, and I think he also understands that his jack is only a bluff catcher when it gets to the river as well. So when I shove and he folds, I just feel like he has a jack there very often. So I think this guy's, if he can read the flop and the board fairly well, then he's obviously not a fish. So we'll just label him light green. Okay, so table 2, I open 6s from mid position. This guy is a short stack. I don't think he'll ever fold on a board like this. He'll basically call with any type of heart, even at least pocket 7s with 7 of hearts. I don't think he will fold that. And I just don't feel like I'm value betting often enough on a board like this with no heart and just a weak pocket pair. So I'd rather just take this to showdown. I just had to refresh these 2 tables just because, like I said in my previous videos, it's always good to just have a full time bank. When I'm running out of time bank, and it's just makes it hard just thinking about the hands and also talking at the same time. And he got disconnected. Okay, ace-4 suited. Sometimes I would 3-bet this versus under the gun, but if he's opening 4x, and there's also a couple of shorter stacks behind me, it's probably not a good idea to do so. Table 2, I'm just gonna bet half pot, also just to block and as well as say protect my hand in some ways. I mean, if it does have some sort of let's say ace queen with one heart. I mean, he can definitely check raise that, but he can also call, but he's still behind in that spot, and we can just check back the river as well. Okay, so iConk decides to 3-bet me. He's in the small blind. We're both effective stacks. It's roughly about 200 big blinds deep. I kind of don't want to go too crazy with ace king offsuit. I can definitely play this in position. And that was a pretty quick c-bet on a board like this. So it looks like he didn't even have time to think about it, but I'm definitely gonna float, not folding. And he bets 63 into 140, so we're getting roughly about 2.5 to 1. We need at least 28%. If it's 3.5, it's 2.5 to 1 actually. We would need, I think I'm just gonna call. He's basically triple barreling this, and I do have the ace of clubs. I think it's a fold. Yeah. Just gonna quickly have a look at this. Okay, so iConk is a fairly aggressive player. Just making notes. Aggro. Okay, so he 3-bets me from the small blind, decides to c-bet, fairly aggressive. Turn c-bets are also fairly aggressive. I can see him having some sort of 10 here, like maybe at least king 10, jack 10 also. And as well as pocket queens, as well as pocket kings, pocket jacks as well. But when it gets to the turn, I don't think he ever has pocket tens or pocket jacks. I can basically put him on pocket queens, jack 10, as well as pocket kings. Even though I do have one king in my hand. Definitely not gonna fold this with the nut flush draw and top kicker. And I can also see him having pocket aces in this spot. Sometimes I can see him check calling pocket aces, but I think I'm leaning more towards on the pocket queens, pocket kings, and jack 10 type of hands if he's going to barrel the turn. And I'm just gonna go back. Sorry. Just gonna go back to the turn. Pretty sure I was getting 2.5 to 1. Just gonna double check something. So if I was getting 2.5 to 1, yeah, I would roughly need 28% in that spot. So 28%, I think this is an okay call. Top pair, top kicker plus nut flush draw. I mean, we'll be crushed obviously by sets. We only have roughly about 19%. We needed 28, but we might still be ahead of, like, if we did have some sort of king 10 king jack type of hand. Obviously the river, it seems fairly noticeable that we are beat, so just mark it. I think my turn play is pretty questionable though. My turn call. Oops, actually I'm gonna sit this one out. And what is going on? Open 2 more tables. Yeah, I can definitely argue that I should have folded on the turn, but it's also a pretty reasonable call as well, because on the turn it seems like we only have 19% just to hit a flush. Yeah, if he has all sets, all nut straights, even aces. Yeah, that's pretty questionable. Maybe I should have folded the turn, but it's also a pretty reasonable call in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think on my play on the turn. Tell me what you would have done, and I'll definitely take advice from you guys. Okay. So king queen, also a default 3-bet range from the big blind versus button. Okay, so Chino opens from mid position 3x. We do have queen 9 suited. I prefer defending this than actually folding it. And with hands like this, I definitely like to see a flop if I am in the big blind versus a single raise. Okay, I'm gonna 3-bet 4-5 suited table 1 versus this guy, and table 3 I'm gonna lead out as well. You can call with at least pocket 7s, pocket 6s, pocket 5s, pocket 8s, but when he decides to raise it, puts me in a pretty shitty spot. So we need to call at least 16 cents into 49. So we're getting about 3.5 to 1 roughly. Okay, so we need 3.5 to 1. We would need at least 28%, no? No, we need at least 23%, roughly. Just gonna fold that. And I feel like this is an okay fold, just because what happens if, you know, we do call, and most of the time we're obviously gonna miss, and we're just gonna be check folding the river. So there's really no point in just calling. I mean, it would have been reasonable if he just calls the turn and then we barrel up on the river, but if he's raising the turn, it basically shuts down our action. We can't just put in more money with a weak draw. We don't even have the ace of spades. It's not even a nut flush draw. So yeah, it's pretty reasonable to just muck it. a6 off. I feel like I'm just gonna mark this. Just gonna give up here on table 3, even with the bottom pair. And it's gonna take note. So this guy is just a limper. I could have led out there, I guess, because I mean, if he limps, I don't really see him having any queens or kings or whatnot. He could obviously limp with a lot of hands, a lot of made flush, suited connectors like 8-7 clubs and whatnot. So I guess yeah, it is a reasonable fold. And this guy is also a fish. He just limps under the gun. So this guy is just playing one table. And on a board like this, I pretty much like to put pressure on my opponents, so definitely gonna raise this up. Okay, so table 2, I open under the gun with pocket tens. There's one over. It's a jack high dry flop. Basically gonna see bet this, just a little bit over half pot. I think he can also call with a bunch of weaker hands, at least like 5-6, 7-7, pocket 8s or whatnot. Now table 1, I open king queen off button, and big blind decides to defend. I'm just gonna bet this fairly aggressively. I feel like he can also call here with a bunch of hands as well, a bunch of weaker queens and just one club type of hand. Actually, maybe my bet size was just a bit bigger. I think I should have bet a lot smaller, roughly about half pot. I'd love to 3-bet this hand versus this guy. However, we have TK on our left who has about a 50 big blind stack, so we're just gonna mark that. Okay, C-third rest. It looks like he's playing one table. And he decides to open from the cutoff. And then Scary decides to call from the small blind. As I said previously, when the small blind calls, he's almost always pretty weak. So we're just going to squeeze this with the ace-9 of spades. I'm also more inclined to 3-bet this more often if I did have ace-9 off, just because with the ace-9 off, it's a lot harder to play it out of position. Table 1, this guy has roughly about 25 big blinds. Okay, now table 3, I'm obviously going to c-bet this. I don't think that queen hits him. And I think it favors our hand on a board like that. When I bet this, I'm obviously going to call all in. If he shoves, we do have the ace of clubs as backup. Yeah. So just going back to this hand, like I said previously, Sev is playing one table. and Scary ended up calling in the small blind, and I would always assume that when small blind calls, it's always a pretty weakish type of hand. I mean, not weak as in like a 7-2 offsuit or 8-3 offsuit or anything like that, but in the sense of like 6-7 suited, 5-6 suited, ace-3 suited type of hands. Also, what I've noticed at these stakes is people tend to call with those ace-3 suited type of hands from the blinds instead of actually just 3-betting them. And anyways, back to this hand. So Fred decided to call my 3-bet, and small blind ended up folding. I'm just gonna bet this fairly small. I think we can get hero called here by a bunch of hands, but at least a 3 maybe, 4-3, pocket 7s maybe. Yep, so Fred decides to call my 3-bet squeeze, and small blind decides to fold. And on the board like this, when he flats my 3-bet, I feel like his flatting range will be around king jack suited, king jack off, king queen suited, king queen off as well, and a lot of jack 10, 9-10 suited, 8-7 suited and whatnot, and also all pocket pairs. So when I do see bet this, I feel like it favors our hand more often than his. And like I said, he definitely could have a lot of king queen and whatnot, but I think he's got more of jack 10, king jack, 9-10, 8-9, 6-7, and also all pocket pairs, and he'll obviously fold most of those hands versus a bet like this. Even with like small pocket pairs, when the pot gets bloated up this much, I don't think he can always hero call when I'm betting fairly aggressively, because I can definitely rep a lot of aces, kings, ace king, ace queen, and also I would occasionally bet pocket 10s as well, pocket 9s here in this spot. But like I said, any smaller pocket pairs, I don't think they can follow through on the turn in the river versus just constant 3-barreling. Okay, so table 1, basically the guy limps and then he checks back, and we turned an open ender, so obvious call. We might still be ahead with ace high. Okay, gonna make a note of this. Okay, so table 3, I'm just gonna bet this half pot. He does have a short stack. I think he's gonna fold almost always if he doesn't hit this board. Okay, so limp, queen 9 off, under the gun, check back, top pair, and queen 9 off, check back, top pair. Okay, so I'm gonna finish the video here, guys. I'll just need to render this video and also upload it, so that will take some time. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you feel like I've made any mistakes in the video, just let me know in the comment section below. I want to know what you guys think of some of my plays. So just critique my play. I don't care how bad it is. Let me know how bad it is, and let me know how else I can improve. Any feedback, any type of feedback is greatly appreciated, whether it's bad or good. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you follow this series, and hopefully we can get up to $100 starting from 0. Okay, so I actually thought I bet there, but it looks like I didn't end up betting. So he's basically betting fairly big. I'd rather check raise this than actually check call. Because I feel like if I just check call, then he's taking the initiative to just take control of the pot. But if I check raise, I'll end up having control on the turn, as well as I can make the decision on the river instead of making it easy for him. Because if I just check call on the turn, and most of the time we're obviously going to miss the flush, that means we're just going to have to check fold almost always. And when you take that line as well, you can donk on the river as a bluff, but it's such a pretty fishy play. You can get called so easily when you take that line. So when you take like a check raise line on the turn, it's super aggressive, and you know, it puts your opponent on a decision. And like I said, we will be taking control on the betting by the river, so I think it's always a good idea to do something like that. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys also follow this journey from 0 to 100.